House flipping can be so scary, and I remember what it was like to be a brand new house flipper, not knowing what was going on, not knowing the exact process, and I was very fearful, and I suspect that you might be feeling the same way. So if you are afraid of flipping a house, and it's the first time you're ever considering flipping a house, I wanna kinda share the 5 biggest fears that new house flippers have, and how to overcome them, because like I said, I've been there. And also, if you're just new to this channel, my name is Justin Urong, and I have coached hundreds of people to make money in real estate. But I wanted to start with the biggest fear is really losing money. People are afraid to lose money, which is rightfully so. It is not a good thing necessarily to lose money, but the biggest thing about trying to overcome that kind of fear is you have to get good at one thing first of all. And that one thing is getting good at crunching the numbers. If you can get good at analyzing the numbers and you can really understand what it takes number-wise to flip a house and how much money is gonna go into it, what the profit's gonna look like, as soon as you get comfortable with that and understanding your numbers and understanding the profit margins that you're looking to get, once you understand that, you will have so much less fear about losing money. And the reason is because the numbers don't lie. And maybe just hearing that from me, you're not really sold yet. And I get it because you haven't done the house flip yet. But I will say the numbers don't lie as long as you learn how to do them accurately. So I've made other videos in the past that you can watch in terms of how to crunch the numbers on house flips. But in general, if you can get good at crunching the numbers, you'll have so much less fear. And the thing about getting good at something, if you wanted to get good at crunching the numbers, it's really just repetition. It's a lot of practice, a lot of repetition. And what I usually tell people is you have to do something so much. Like if you're trying to get good at something, you have to do it so much, so often, that it would be so unlikely for you to actually be bad at it. So for example, if you were to analyze 10,000 deals, 10,000 potential house flips. If you were to crunch the numbers on 10,000 house flips, it would be so unlikely or so unreasonable for you to be bad at that. Therefore, you're probably good at it by then. So if you are unsure of this thing and you're trying to understand how to get good at crunching the numbers, just do it. Just practice it. And over time, you will start to learn that skill set and you're gonna be less fearful about losing money. So that's tip number 1 or thing number 1 that people are afraid of. Now, the other thing, number 2, the biggest fear, is that people don't really know what the process is. They don't know the entire process of flipping a house and that scares them. And also rightfully so, because sometimes or often the unknown is very scary. So what I want to tell you is that you will never know the exact process of every single deal. You're gonna know the general process over time as you do more deals, but you're never gonna know exactly what's gonna happen every single deal, every single house flip. And that's because so many things pop up on these house flips that you just can't predict everything. And if that scares you, you have to get used to it. You have to get comfortable with it because if you actually want to be a house flipper, you have to get comfortable with the unknown. So the good thing about that is that you don't have to know everything. You just have to know the next step. So if you're trying to flip a house, often the first step is, okay, you have to buy the house. Well, if you buy the house, what's the first step to that? Oh, I probably should start marketing, making offers, or if I'm not even to that stage, maybe I should learn how to analyze deals or decide on my strategy first. Like, there's always a next step. So you don't have to know the entire process. As long as you do the next step, you probably hit a roadblock, you probably are trying to figure out the next step, you figure out the next one, and then you move forward, and then you move forward. That's how most people do it. That's how I did it. And it does help to have a mentor too, to kind of mitigate or reduce your fears because they can tell you the next step right away, so you're not having to search for these next steps yourself. But overall, just know that for a long time or for a while, you won't know the exact process of this, and that's okay. It's normal, and you will get over it just knowing that all you have to do is get to the next step. So the other thing that I know people are afraid of is not knowing how to plan the renovation. And again, an understandable fear because if you've never flipped a house, you might have seen just like on HGTV or these TV shows where these investors or these people on the shows are like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this to the wall, we're gonna knock down the wall, we're gonna do this to the countertops. And it's like, what if you know nothing about renovation? When I started flipping houses, I knew nothing about renovation, yet I was still able to manage contractors to do the project of how I wanted. And the only reason I could do that is because I could say, well, I want it to look kind of like this. Like, I don't know what to tell you. This is what I want it to look like. And you can work with your contractors or your project managers to guide you to make sure they're actually doing the right thing. Like, you don't have to know every little detail about renovations or rehabs or contractor work, because I still don't. I've been flipping houses, or I've been buying houses for 4 years now. I don't really know how to use a hammer well, or like these other, well, I can use a hammer, but I can't use all these insane tools. I don't know about that stuff. What I do know is I know what the end product is going to look like. I know that if I want to sell a house that sold for this price, and I see other houses that have sold for this price, and these houses look a certain way, I know that if I can copy that look for my house should probably sell for the same thing. And so I can just tell them, look, can you make it look like this? And that was essentially how I started out. And you don't have to know all about renovations or all about constructions, because it's unrealistic to do so. Now, the other thing that people are afraid of is not knowing how to manage the contractors. And again, this is actually probably, for me, one of the hardest parts of flipping houses, is understanding how to manage contractors. And you won't know until you figure it out. So you could do one of two things. Even if you haven't have a deal yet, like, you can start to think about what you're going to be doing to manage the project. Because if you just leave the contractors be and let them do their own thing, and no one is ever checking up on them to make sure the project's going on time and correctly, like, they will slack off, most likely. Unless they're a great contractor, they're going to slack off, and the project's not going to be done on time. You're going to be wasting money. It's not going to be how you like. Like, all these things will happen. So somebody has to manage the contractors. So if you hire a general contractor, you could either be the manager or the project manager yourself, where you're kind of babysitting them, going to the property multiple times a week, saying, look, hey, how are things going? What's the task for this week? What are you trying to accomplish? Let me make sure I can hold you accountable to get these things accomplished. That's what a project manager does, and they give updates. Now, you can also hire someone to do that yourself. For me, I pay project managers, I don't know, $500 to $1,500 for the project to manage the contractor. So in the grand scheme of things, like, if you're going to make $30,000 on a flip, $1,500, $500 is not a lot, especially if you know that you're going to suck at managing contractors and you're like, I refuse to do that, hire it out. But I do think it does help to get an idea of what that process is like. So I think it's helpful to do it once yourself, at least. And once you do so, you'll know how to hire out. You'll know how you have a good project manager, or if you have a bad one, because you've done it before. So managing contractors, the thing you have to know about them is you just have to stay on top of them. You just have to check in with them a lot. You have to make sure that they do what they say they're going to do. And they have to have an idea or the thought in their head that you're going to check up on them. And I recommend for you to check up on the project at least twice a week to make sure they're at the property doing their thing. And if you ever go to the project or the property and they're not there, just give them a call or a text and, hey, where are you at? Like, I thought you were working on this right now. And it gives them the sense of, okay, he's checking up. I have to make sure I'm there doing the job, getting everything done that I said I was going to do. And that's really what project management is. And it's okay that it's scary, because like I said, it's one of the hardest parts of flipping houses, because construction is a whole different beast. Buying houses is actually a lot easier than you think. You just have to look at the numbers and make offers. Managing the project is you're managing people to get the job done. It's so different, but you will be okay, I promise you. And the other thing, or the very last thing that people are afraid of, is the house not selling at the very end. So once you flip the house, you're like, how do I know it's actually going to sell? And this part is a lot of faith. You have to have faith in the process, even if you've never done it before. But more importantly, you have to have faith in your numbers. So your numbers will dictate exactly what's happening. And what I tell people is this: when you are determining the value of the property, of what it's going to sell for after you plan to fix it up, you have to look at a lot of comparable houses, a lot of houses that have the same specifications as your house, but it's probably in the fixed up condition that you're aiming for. Because if those houses sell for $300,000 and you see 5 houses in nice condition that all look like your house but are just nicer, and they all sold for $300,000, well, yours is probably gonna sell for $300,000. And you can even budget conservatively depending on the market you're in. Like if you're in a bad market or a down market like I am right now, or we are right now, time of recording, then you can budget conservatively saying, okay, it probably won't sell for 300,000, probably gonna sell for 270. And then you try to sell it for 270. So it comes down to knowing your numbers and the values or your ARV of where it's gonna sell. So that's kind of how you mitigate that fear. It's knowing the numbers, and you probably see a common theme of how important it is to know your numbers. So know the numbers, but also have faith. Have faith in yourself, have faith in the process. And if you do all these things, you should be a little bit less fearful going into your first, second, third house flip. You will be just okay, I promise you. And also, if you just want help to grow your real estate investing business, I want you to click on the link in the description below for a free consultation.